You're listening to the Today in Manufacturing podcast.
Hi, I'm David Manti, and welcome to a new episode of the Today in Manufacturing podcast. With me this week are Jeff Ranke and Anna Wells. We each have more than 15 years of experience covering the manufacturing industry. Every week, we take the 5 most popular stories in our websites and discuss the implications they have on the industry going forward. Before we get started, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You can also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. You can email the podcast. You can reach any of us at Jeff, David, or Anna at IEN.com with email the podcast in the subject line. You can also subscribe to our daily and weekly newsletters and subscribe to us on YouTube at IEN Magazine to make sure you get a notification and you can join us live every Thursday. Jeff, how you doing this week?
Good, man. How about you?
I'm feeling better. I'm feeling energized, but it's all chemical because I did the week crawl back to caffeine today, and I'm just like, what was I thinking?
What do you mean week?
Oh, because I was without coffee for, almost a year. And then I was just like, I tried a sip of cold brew, and I was just like, hello, old friend.
I'm picturing you do you remember in Rescue Rangers when Monterey Jack would smell cheese and his mustache would flip around?
100%, yeah.
That's you.
Yeah.
When you have that first sip of coffee.
Yeah, it was that, only it was the buttons on my shirt started trembling. Yeah. Anna, how you doing this week?
Doing great.
Yeah? Well, let's jump into the episode, but before we get started, do we have a sponsor?
Sure do, David.
Let's throw it to the sponsor.
Oil Eater's household cleaners, industrial cleaners, and industrial equipment are specifically designed to replace dangerous solvents and are used throughout the world. Our safe water-based formula dissolves grease and grime for almost any surface and leaves a fresh, non-chemical scent. Our ultra-concentrated formulas are perfect for light, medium, or heavy cleaning and can be used on shop floors, in parts washers, to clean equipment, and more. VOC compliant, Oil Eater will do an excellent job in a multitude of applications, safely and cost-effectively, while reducing your chemical usage. Safe for the user, safe for the surfaces being cleaned, and safe for the environment. For more information, visit oileater.com or call 800-528-0334.
And we're back. And before we get started with our first story, just make sure to click that link in the live chat or below. Get yourself a free sample of Oil Eater. We all have it in our houses and garages now. Swear by it. And if you don't like it, just send it to me. I'll use it. All right. Our first story this week. 3M to cut about 2,500 manufacturing jobs globally. 3M chairman and CEO Mike Roman says his company has experienced rapid declines in consumer markets, a big slowdown in China due to COVID-19 related disruptions. These challenges are expected to continue at least through this year. As a result, the company is slashing about 2,500 manufacturing jobs around the world and adjusting production volumes. Last month, as Anna mentioned in case you missed it, 3M announced plans to get out of the forever chemical business by the end of 2025. The St. Paul, Minnesota-based company reported $8.08 billion in Q4, beating Wall Street expectations. That's revenue. Anna, your thoughts on 3M coming out and slashing about 2,500 jobs?
Yeah, so obviously no one wants to see that. I think there's a lot in play here. CEO Mike Roman cited, as you mentioned, rapid declines in consumer-facing markets, and I think we should dig into that a little bit. So I know the article mentioned 3M's pledge to exit producing PFAS, and I know that's gotten a lot of attention lately, but I think the scale back here has to do with a lot of other things. One of the things that this article didn't really touch on is respirators, which basically, as you know, are these high-quality masks. 3M was a huge supplier of N95s and the like during the pandemic, and they expect sales of those to fall to pre-pandemic levels this year, representing a hit of about $500 million.
Yeah.
And you can't fault 3M for expanding their operations to meet that demand, right? It was very unclear at that time how temporary that was going to be as a market. There was also that sort of societal impetus, almost to the point of a responsibility for these companies, these manufacturers like 3M to kind of make that stuff as much as they could, as fast as they could, right? So it wasn't like they had a choice to say, like, we're going to take this slow, kind of feel out the business conditions here in the long-term market. That wasn't really allowed in the tenor of that moment. I think we can at least say that in 3M's defense. Secondly, 3M has taken a bit of a hit to its business after the work-from-home boom sort of plateaued, I guess, or even started to lessen. People bought a lot of devices when this was first kicking off, also just sitting at home. People were buying new TVs and stuff like that. 3M makes films that go on those screens for like tablets, devices, monitors. So people were stocking up on those devices, and now they're not, kind of hanging on to some cash. So that's not something that you buy new every year. 3M is going to be dealing with the decline in that demand for a bit here, I think. So for Roman to say that 3M's job cuts were, a quote here, a necessary decision to align with adjusted production volumes, he's really just saying that consumers need less of what 3M is making right now. And, you know, back to the PFAS thing, things like environmental litigation, 3M continuing to be sued for the related impacts of PFAS, for still dealing with the fallout from those earplugs, those lawsuits that we've talked about on the podcast before, that is going to persist in kind of weighing down those profits. So it's just they're dealing with a lot here. There's just a lot of bumps in the road, and I think that, you know, they're seeing that that's not something that's going to change in the course of 2023. So unfortunately, this is the result of all that.
Yeah, it's and with PFAS winding down by the end of 2025, there may be future cuts coming there that a lot of people wanted to relate these cuts with the PFAS cut, but they're not even thinking about those yet.
No,
those are 2 years away.
I agree, but I do think they are seeing the looming impact of litigation potentially.
Jeff, did you read the same article as Anna and I, and then in the Star Tribune? Because I just had all the same facts she did. I was just like on my notes, just slashing like covered it.
Well, I think what you're seeing here with this story, and this is going to be a reoccurring theme, not just in this episode of the podcast, but probably for the next couple of months. Okay, a couple things to keep into perspective if we look at things from a little bit more of a glass half full perspective, I guess. All of the things that 3M is missing by, for all the factors that Anna just went through, they're big numbers individually, but when you put it in perspective of how large 3M is, they're not terrible, okay? Now, shareholders are always going to want more. They're never going to want to hear that you're flat. They almost feel better when you say you're down, because then you can say you're doing things. If you're up, obviously they're happy, but when you're just flat, which is kind of what 3M is dealing with right now because of a lot of the factors that have taken place in terms of shifting market demands and consumer needs and all of that, they have to do something, okay? And I think that's what a lot of this release was about. It's kind of tempering people for the fact that, hey, we're going to be down. We're doing something about it, okay? We're cutting these jobs. And it's, when you look at the size of 3M, again, 93,000 global employees, 40 different manufacturing plants just in the U.S., not even globally. So when you look at 2,500 jobs, yeah, you feel for anybody that is infected by or is impacted by that. But he also said jobs. That doesn't always equate to people. There's a lot of open positions right now at 3M. If you do any type of search at Indeed or anything else, granted, there's still going to be some pain here, okay, without a shadow of a doubt. But I think it can be tempered a little bit when you are as large as 3M. Again, I think that there's also, on the other side of that though, man, how nervous are you if you work at 3M and you're like,
I think pretty nervous.
Somebody, we don't know where, we don't know who, but at some point, 2,500 jobs are gone. You know, that's the other part of this type of announcement, even though they're trying to get out ahead of it and sort of get people understanding that this is going to happen. I think that would also be really nerve-wracking if you're on the other side of that. Also talking about one of the things that Anna brought up about the lawsuits, just getting back to the fact that there really hasn't been any movement on that big earplug lawsuit. 3M, according to a couple of different sources, is spending over $4.5 million a week on legal costs just for that one case. Wow. So, and with all the cases that have spun out of it, I think they've only gotten rulings on like 16 different suits or versions of that same suit. So there's more to come.
I think that if they were just going to take down 2,500 job postings, they would have specifically called that out. Just like, we're going to lose 2,500 job postings. Don't worry, not people.
Well, again, I'm not saying that's all of that. I'm saying hopefully it's some of that.
Well, and the fact that this is related to the respirators, I think if that wasn't known internally, people had to see that this was part of that COVID bubble that we didn't necessarily know how long it was going to take or how long it was going to last. Yeah. The company actually received two significant contracts from the Department of Defense to ramp up respirator production as a result of the COVID-19 outbreak. So it was something like ramping up to 35 million respirators per month in the U.S. 3M itself invested $80 million in ramping up production. It didn't say exactly how much they had received from the government, but I wonder if just, that money is gone. And obviously the demand is not gone, but significantly lower. And, the writing was kind of on the wall.
Yeah.
All right. Well, our next most popular story, Energizer to close 2 Wisconsin plants and deport jobs. Energizer recently told workers in Fenimore and Portage, Wisconsin, that their plants will be closed within the next 2 years. The 600 workers on staff are represented by the Teamsters Union, which issued a press release in response to the announcement, alleging that the jobs will be outsourced overseas and moved to a non-union plant in North Carolina. The Teamsters said Energizer gave workers few details and blasted the battery maker's plan to, quote, deport jobs. Teamsters General President Sean O'Brien said, quote, the American public should be outraged. O'Brien continued, our entire union is furious. If Energizer thinks it's going to outsource American jobs and destroy Wisconsin communities, we've got news for them. The Teamsters are coming, and we will stop at nothing to protect American workers. Dramatic license by David Manty. The workers at the plants make hearing aid batteries, as well as batteries for Everready and Rayovac brands. Anna, a lot of bluster coming out of Mr. O'Brien.
Yeah, and what does it mean to stop at nothing?
I don't know. I think
that's like an alarming term.
Yeah, I think.
I mean,
they will stop at like physical harm.
Yeah, you're gonna stop at something, right? Like,
I don't know.
They're not gonna come like walking up with the chains and the socks full of nickels, coming at them.
Yeah, he doesn't say anything about socks or nickels, but it's implied. No, I'm just kidding. Obviously, we can agree that this is a very aggressive tone that's being taken by the Teamsters. I think they're either certain that Energizer will close these plants or they want to drum up as much attention as they can, maybe so they can prevent potential closures from happening, because we know that Energizer has not made any type of official announcement here. The only reason this was released in the media was because rumors had started to occur in the plants, and then also now this Teamsters news release.
There was an email, right? Wasn't there an email internally?
I did not see report of any email internally.
Yeah.
What the Teamsters say is that they were told, but once this broke via the Teamsters, Energizer said something along the lines of, we're working out the future of this plant. We hope to, support our employees and whatever. It was very generic and broad and not specific at all.
Okay.
So Teamsters are saying that they were told the plants would close within 12 to 24 months and the jobs would go elsewhere. Energizer has not filed any sort of cut notice with the state. The local NBC affiliate reported that as recently as December, Energizer factory employees told Portage Mayor Mitch Craig that the plant would remain open. But I would say that despite Energizer's unwillingness to confirm these reports, or inability, I don't really know, there's obviously still a lot of uncertainty here. The Teamsters are trying to draw attention to it with their aggressive rhetoric, perhaps to try to drum up some public sentiment in their favor. Maybe they're trying to, get in front of these efforts. Sometimes that gets the attention of local leaders or state agencies, and they try to intercede. That could be what they're doing here. But in my experience, unfortunately, once you get to these rumors stages, it's usually too late. I think it's very unlikely that this is going to be effective. And if it is, then it's just kicking the can down the road.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we're Wisconsin natives. We know these communities. They're very small towns. Portage is small. Fennimore's even smaller. There's nothing around there. It's a very rural region. So I don't know. I hope that maybe something works out in the end. I think the Teamsters are just using whatever tools they can to try to drum up some attention and see if it could change the trajectory of this. But I don't know if that's effective. Right now, it seems like pretty over the top, some of their language. So we'll see what happens next. We'll see if Energizer comes out with any sort of a statement, or if anyone from the state or the county or the city is able to try to intercede with some incentives. I don't know. We'll see.
Right. Some incentives so that way they can keep the plants open until the incentives run out.
And then close it. Yes.
The free money lifeline. Jeff, so the Teamsters come out, say we're going to take it to the governor. We're going to stop at nothing. They keep shouting. They rile up everybody, like the entire base of employees. And Energizer is just reminded as to why they're leaving?
Well, I mean, that's a good point. Yeah. I mean, that could definitely be part of it. I mean, to this again, I think there's a lot of parallels to the story with 3M. I know in my own household, when it comes to batteries, which is what they're making at these facilities, things that are sold through retail outlets, we went through a ton of batteries on video game controllers. Okay. Guess what? Kids are back in school. We're not doing that. A bunch of other stuff that they were using outside, different stuff that was running on batteries. We're not buying those things. So this was going to compound. This was going to come back as well. All right. So I think there is something to be said there in terms of the Teamsters here. And I think this is another ongoing trend. We ran an article about this, was it this week or last, talking about how even though there's more publicity about some of these union activities, interest in joining unions is down. So I think that is why some of the stronger language came through here in the Teamsters release. They're really trying to, as you guys alluded to, rile people up and present as a very strong front for the workforce, when the reality is Energizer is going to do what they're going to do. And the fact that they didn't come to negotiate with the Teamsters, and I think maybe the Teamsters are feeling like they are losing some of this clout that they've had before in working with companies. Probably a lot of frustration in that release more than anything else. But again, and the other thing I think it's important to state here is Energizer hasn't given a timeline. They said the next 2 years, right? So to your point, why would you want to do things to try to expedite that, which is all the Teamsters kind of did with this release. The other thing is they've never said explicitly that they're going to go to Mexico. That hasn't been stated either. That's something that Teamsters are implying. So I think you need to be careful from a liable perspective there as well. Again, there was a lot in this Teamster statement that I think we can be critical of. One of the things I was pointing out that I think is interesting, you were talking about incentives and free money potentially. They said in 2020 that Wisconsin gave Energizer a 5-year, $600,000 tax credit to create 96 jobs and retain 450 others. Since 99, Energizer's received more than $10 million in public subsidies from 6 other states.
Whoa.
So there is something to be said about Energizer taking the money and running, or not working in good faith with some of these local communities.
Yeah.
There is something to be said there, but I think the tone of the Teamsters sort of supersedes their message. You're focused on what they were saying, sounding like Jimmy Hoffa or something, as opposed to coming out and presenting facts, which people can get behind and understand, and then sort of champion your cause. This just sounded too thug-like in a lot of ways.
Instead of stop at nothing, just say, we're going to prove our worth.
Well, yeah, and I think the other thing, again, we're going to see more of these types of stories. We've already covered 2 in the first two that were in our podcast here. We're going to see more of this just because, unfortunately, and as painful as it's going to be, there's a market correction going on. You want to call it a recession, you can call it whatever you want to, but all of these things are tied together. Nobody likes high fuel prices. Nobody likes inflation. Nobody likes higher interest rates for homes. With the unemployment rate being so low, that's what's triggering a lot of these things. So the reality is, as painful as it is, and as much as you don't want to root for these layoffs, especially for those people who are affected by it, when it comes to the overall economy, this is kind of part of the recovery that's going to take place. Well, I'm not saying I am pro-job cuts.
Yeah.
It sounds like you are anti-jobs. I think you made that clear in the last 30 seconds.
Well, as part of the 3M story, a big part of that is people pulling back on discretionary spending. And a lot of that has to do with items that use batteries as well. Jeff, I have to say, though, just on an anecdotal basis, whatever slack you have in battery consumption, we've picked it up for you because, as the boys have learned how to use those thumbs, and everything is a remote control. Every light, every night light is battery operated. We got a night light for Christmas that illuminates different galaxies on the ceiling, and I'm like, this thing is amazing. It spark his interest in like STEM, and we're gonna point out like the Milky Way, and then it fried 4 AA's in a night. I was like, so much for learning. Bye. But back to this phased consolidation. Anna, you kind of spoke to this a little bit, but the plant in Fenimore has been there more than 50 years. And a lot of people came out and have this last week said they think that the town will die without the plant. Fenimore has less than 3,000 people, and the plant has more than 300 workers. Mm-hmm. That is a huge impact on the community. Another part, just one part of the statement, when O'Brien said the American public should be outraged, does anybody else have outrage exhaustion?
You're over being outraged?
No, can't people just be like, just be really upset over this?
You're saying this.
But I mean, it's like everything that happens, it's like, you've got to be outraged. You got to deep in your soul, guttural anger. And like, it's just, you know what? Let's figure out a solution to this. I don't know. It's just.
I think your point is fair. It's ironic that the guy who just like goes off on fruit fillings and desserts would be the one to bring up outrage.
He used it all
fatigue.
up on pie and milkshakes.
I guess.
All his outrage has been used up on milkshakes.
Fruit filling and desserts is an abomination.
Are you outraged?
No. I'm saving my outrage for something that's worthy of it.
Okay.
That's just I'm just upset about that. I'm angry about this, but everyone should be outraged. It's just like.
Well, again, I think we can all agree the Teamsters' response were over the top. So
Yeah.
I would agree for them to want to express that kind of emotion.
Yeah.
Come on.
Teamsters issue a new press release titled, "You Still Need Me." All right. Our next most popular story. How a company recycles seldom used world's largest passenger plane. Tarmac Aerosave has found a way to recycle the Airbus A380, the world's largest passenger plane. Airbus built 251 A380s, the Hummer of the skies, and some are still in use, but are often too big and expensive to run. The aircraft has 4 engines. It's nearly 3/4 of a football field long and is nearly 80 feet high. Its takeoff weight is 560 metric tons. Tarmac has recycled 6 A380s, and it's nearly done with a 7th. The operation is costly, but starts with repurposing the avionics, landing gear, and engines. They pull parts for spares, and other components are then shipped to schools and training facilities. Tarmac can recover more than 90% of the aircraft, and at most 3% becomes waste. Jeff, it was really cool how they're able to take and repurpose so much of this aircraft, but something has to be said about how this was a marvel of aerospace engineering less than 20 years ago, and it is, an albatross in the industry now.
Mm-hmm. It's still in use. There's still like over 200 of them still in use and stuff. So there's still application for it, but they just got so heavy. It's a really interesting case study in terms of product development and the timelines associated with it. Mm-hmm. Because you're right, when they first started developing this plane, everybody was just over the moon. They were so excited about it, what it represented, more people over longer flights, all that kind of stuff. But the longer it took to develop, and I think Airbus sunk like $40 billion into this or something like that, they just couldn't get it up and running quick enough for it to make money, to be a profitable venture for them. And over time, they had issues with the engines in terms of how heavy they were. They had the wings cracking. There was other things that developed. But kind of adding to what you had mentioned about all of the different spare parts and just sort of the scale of this plane, 19,000 bolts are used for the fuselages, plus another 4,000 to attach each of the wings.
That's going to take so many jars in your garage.
4 million individual components, 2.5 million part numbers, all of this kind of stuff. So it's good to see that so much of this is being recycled. But the other thing that's interesting is when they talk about there's still is it 1% to 3% that it's just kind of waste?
Yeah.
When you look at something this big, that's still a lot. It is. There's 11.
It's still 3% of 560 metric tons.
There's 1,100 pounds of paint and coatings on this plane.
What?
It's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, and when you look at all of that, you do get caught up in the scope because we're talking about recycling and making the most out of all this, something that's going away. But there's still a lot that will need to be recycled. It is cool that these companies are able to do all this. It's tremendous, especially when you look at sending a lot of this stuff out to places that are going to be instructional locations. But yeah, in Aviation Week actually did a really interesting breakdown in terms of the product development and where they ran into issues, and it just took too long and cost too much. By the time they got it to market, it just wasn't practical anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But at least a lot of that is aluminum, which is recyclable. Where they had mentioned that a lot of aircraft being a different composite, a lot of times they just cut it up and bury it. I don't know if you mentioned or if you saw that part, Anna, but I was like, okay, that's great for this story. But what about all the other planes out there that were just cutting up and burying?
Just burying them in the desert? Okay.
Yeah, right next to all those ET cartridges. Anna, the fate of the A380.
Yeah.
What did you think about, Tarmac Aerosave and what they're doing to upcycle and recycle these aircraft?
Well, I think I took a little bit more positive. If we could recycle 97% of everything that we used and put it somewhere else, like that would be great. I know that it's still like 3% of this giant thing, but 97% is pretty good.
Yeah, no, that's a win.
I think it's a
especially
win.
when you're compared to its counterparts, which they're burying in the desert.
Yeah.
Well,
and it speaks to really how valuable these planes are if spending all this time and, as mentioned, 6 figures dismantling and finding reuse channels for these is worth it.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times they're just like, oh, it's too big of an effort.
Yeah.
We'll start over.
Yeah.
That's what we do in America. We just start over.
That's right.
Tear it down. CNN described this plane as being, quote, well loved by passengers, but doomed from the start. And, Jeff went through a few of these points about how this was really just very expensive to operate and very expensive to fly based on its weight. It used an immense amount of fuel. One of the reasons that they reportedly didn't work for airlines, which I thought was very interesting, and you didn't mention this one, but they said that people don't want fewer flights on bigger aircrafts. They want more options for buying tickets.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
So like buyers, instead of having like 3 flights to get you overseas, and you can choose from 25 takeoff times. Now you can choose from 3 because they only have a couple of these planes.
Oh, gotcha.
People didn't like that.
Makes sense.
So maybe that's why they still work in the Middle East and Asia. I think they're still operating because maybe people are just less fussy than we are. But then, without having economies of scale and being able to buy a whole bunch of these, they weren't able to make it work from a cost standpoint. It just wasn't worth it. So that I thought was interesting. And despite its size and double-decker design, which meant more space for passengers, airlines just weren't up to putting that money forth. And on the one hand, it's kind of sad to think about, like, we will never get a nice, comfortable plane where you're not like flying across the country with somebody's knee in your back. Like that's forever. But I was trying to look at the upside of that. Like maybe it's a testament to the fact that airlines are always going to be super operating cost driven in the decisions that they make. And maybe that will help kind of boost some of these alternative energy type solutions that are in development right now. Because if you think about it, like for an airliner who's very sensitive to variability on prices for fuel, they all operate out of these big giant fields that could easily be solar farms, I would think. So once those electric planes roll out and they can find a significant cost savings there, that may ramp up adoption so much faster than we would ever see with a car. Mm-hmm. So maybe it's a positive sign for the future of aerospace. I don't know. That's just me trying to give it a good polish there at the end.
Spin.
Yeah.
Jeff, it sounded like you wanted to jump in at a couple points there.
No, just a couple of things. When you were talking about the size, the double decker, in some configurations, they could fit 850 people on this plane.
It's insane.
Yeah. It is.
I grew up in a town of 1,000 people. You could fit almost the whole town on this plane.
Right, the whole town's going on vacation. And you know that 150 that are staying behind, just like you can't make them happy.
Yeah.
No, I wish that our travel schedule afforded us the opportunity to, do a little bit more, I don't want to say international travel, but flights that were long enough to justify flying on something like this, because we are only on the flying buses, and I apologize. My knees will always be in somebody's back, even if I have the extended legroom. I'm sorry. And you know what? Sometimes when I'm stretched out, my shoes fall off. I apologize, I'm just getting comfortable. We're just getting comfortable.
You're John Candy from
You're the
Plane,
guy
Trains,
who's
and
got-
Automobiles.
Yeah, exactly.
You got your foot in somebody's like armrest. And
Oh,
they
no,
can
I have it like-
see your toes.
No, I have it like crossed up and on like the window, but they can still kind of see my toes if they're in front of me, if they look back.
So are you the guy that also, no matter what, always reclines?
No, never.
Never recline.
Recliners shouldn't be allowed to fly. Like that should be something where the flight attendants go through, see who's reclining. They lose points and lose priority on the airline. They should all be in the back.
If there's nobody in back of you, you can recline.
You can
right?
recline. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So the plane debuted in 2005. I was shocked by how it's not even 20 years old, because the average age of the current U.S. fleet is 11 years. But on average, an aircraft should operate about 30 years before it has to be retired.
Well, they're not pulling them out. Like Anna said, there are some folks that will still use them. They'll be, for decades to come. Somebody will use them, just not like Airbus had hoped.
Production ended in 2021. This Tarmac Aerosave, they've recycled more than 300 aircraft since the company was founded in 2007. And that had to be kind of an ambitious business plan when they started. Just like, we're getting into aviation. What are you doing? Tearing them apart. We're essentially scrapping. There is going to be a more and more limited market for parts. So, maybe especially the first A380s that wind up going this route will have a bit more value to them than the ones later down the road. I did find it interesting how parts are being upcycled, and even some of the more odd items are being auctioned off. For example, they talked about an upcycled bar that was from an Emirates A380, and it sold for $50,000 to somebody that just wanted to put an A380 like bar in their basement.
Okay.
Wow.
Which would be interesting, but then it got me thinking about all the weird components. I'm like, and I think we've talked about it on the podcast before, where they auctioned off some of these planes, because I really want to get like just some of the weird fire safety, or maybe even a couple of the inflatable vests, just to have downstairs.
Yeah.
Party favors?
Yeah. You're in an auction and you get caught up in the heat of it, and all of a sudden you're coming home with like half a plane.
You're going to get invited to so many auctions now.
Yeah.
Oh man, no, I registered for one list once, and that name has been sold 1,000 times over. I get them all the time now.
Get the beverage cart.
I will.
That would be amazing.
Oh, you can ride it around the office.
Actually, okay,
Yeah.
I'm with you there. That would be cool. I like that one.
Does it come stocked? If it doesn't come stocked, like it's delivered and you open it, just come on now.
Where's all the canned juice?
Our next most popular story: Shuttered McDonald's restaurants reopen with very generic names.
Loose tie.
McDonald's severed ties with Food Solutions KZ in Kazakhstan this month because of supply chain problems. The restaurant stopped sourcing from Russia and was having trouble establishing new channels. Many of the restaurants reopened this week, but without those golden arches. The former licensee opted for no branding and very generic names. For example, one of the restaurants is called Cheeseburger. Some of the menu items include the Beef Tasty, Chicken Tasty, Grand Cheeseburger, and Fish Burger. Yum. Chicken nuggets, ice cream, and fries are also on the menu. No one knows where the ingredients are coming from, but Food Solutions says it will maintain the same quality and service standards. The company plans to roll out a new brand at some point. And when McDonald's pulled out of Russia following the Ukrainian invasion, its restaurants were rebranded as Tasty, and that's it. The same company recently tried to register its trademark in Kazakhstan, so we'll see if these generic cheeseburgers become something more imaginative like the Tasty, and that's it.
Burger. Get out of here.
Anna, how could you resist the urge to go into a restaurant when you passed it when the sign just simply said cheeseburger?
I could. I could.
Sorry, if it just said Impossible Burger.
If it said veggie burger, yeah. Then I couldn't. This story was funny to a lot of people. I think that's why it was so popular, just because like you see it and you kind of like roll your eyes, but also like it's hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, some of these restaurants didn't even have a sign. They just had they didn't even have like branding or a sign. The only sign was on the door and it just said, "We're open."
Yeah. And I don't know, I think people don't feel a lot of sympathy for like corporate behemoth restaurant McDonald's. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe just me. But.
Everyone's seen The Founder.
Yeah.
They're the villain.
And the reality is that there are McDonald's knockoffs like all over the world. There's actually knockoffs of American chains in a lot of different countries, KFC, all that stuff. I've been in European cities where there was a McDonald's knockoff, like literally right across the street from an actual McDonald's just operating. But that doesn't mean that McDonald's doesn't go after the low-hanging fruit when it comes to intellectual property protection. So there are a multitude of cases where McDonald's has filed suit against companies that are operating in a way that they feel infringes upon their IP, their brand. This includes suing a Philippines burger joint for the name McJoy.
Wow, that's harsh.
Yeah.
Man.
A San Francisco coffee house for the name McCoffee. By the way, the owner's name was Elizabeth McCoffee.
Oh, come on.
A London-based Chinese restaurant was sued by McDonald's for being called McChina Walkaway. And then my personal favorite, McDonald's spent 26 years in a legal battle with a man whose real legal name was Ronald McDonald. And he owned a restaurant called McDonald's Family Restaurant in Fairbury, Illinois. It was a very weird story if you want to Google it.
Yes.
They were, for a long time, getting these cease and desist letters. And then a McDonald's opened up in this town of Fairbury and then ended up closing down because all the business was going to McDonald's Family Restaurant.
Goodness, put that in my veins. McDonald's needed to sue Ronald McDonald?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yep.
Come on. How is that not made by Judd Apatow by now?
It should be a movie. I know.
Yeah.
I think in the end, the difference here is like short of using McDonald's sounding names or images, there's really no law against selling a cheeseburger. So perhaps these restaurants can kind of have their fries and eat them too. Like, because honestly, like, so they have the building, they have the location that, McDonald's was once there. So without referencing McDonald's, they still have the traffic. They still have the almost like the residual scent of the brand. The patina of McDonald's is still there on that building. And so it's hard for McDonald's to pursue any kind of case there, but it's probably good for this restaurant.
So McDonald's is going after anyone with a Mick?
You can't use the Mick.
You can't be, even if you're a Mick.
Even if your name is McCoffee, you can't open up a McCoffee.
Jeff.
Wow.
How can you believe, that some person named their child Ronald McDonald and that his passion in life was to pursue the restaurant business and create a family diner called McDonald's, what was it?
McDonald's Family Restaurant.
McDonald's Family Restaurant.
It's America.
Oh, my God. Was he a redhead?
Not listed.
Pale in complexion? Yeah. Jeff, I'm sorry. Have you ever been to a McDonald's in Russia?
I have not been to Russia, David.
I didn't know.
This isn't Russia. This is Kazakhstan.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Your travels have brought you many places.
Not been to this neck of the woods. The one thing, though, I think, regardless of where in the world you're making cheeseburgers and fish burgers, I don't think you want anyone to ever say in a story about this establishment, no one knows where the ingredients are coming from.
Yeah, that made me laugh.
That might be a red flag.
I hope someone knows, please.
Yeah.
I mean, the name doesn't bother me. We've gone to, Mexican restaurants that are basically El Jalapeno. I mean, they're great, so that works. So what this got me thinking about actually is just sort of the impact U.S. companies or the approach U.S. companies have taken to a lot of the stuff going on in Russia, which is what caused all of this. Basically, McDonald's not sourcing any of these facilities, any of these locations in Russia. So then if they were sourcing from Russia, they couldn't get their stuff either. I was looking at that list again that the Yale School of Business Management put out. There are actually 6 restaurant, fast food type places that would get a D or an F from this Yale school for still supporting stuff in Russia.
Oh, okay.
Any guess on what any of these might be?
Ooh.
Wendy's? Oh, tell me one's Hooters.
Neither were on the No, I only went the D's and the F's.
Oh,
These are
okay.
people that aren't even trying to like slow down.
I want to know.
Yeah.
Let's reveal the list.
So there's 6 of them. There is Carl's Jr., which around here we call it Hardee's. What's the Taco Bell is not one.
Okay.
Send that one in. What's the one with the Cinnabon?
Oh,
That's another one.
Cinnabon.
Domino's, still operating in Russia.
Okay.
Another one that we don't have around here, I don't see a whole lot anymore. Just TGI Fridays. Is another one. And then the last 2 are actually kind of surprising too. Subway
Oh, that's actually...
and Sbarro's.
Oh, Sbarro?
Sbarro
Yeah.
is operating anywhere?
So, hey, come on now. They are.
Well,
that's food courts everywhere. I love
That's what I was
Sbarro.
thinking about TGI Fridays. I'm like, I mean, unless they're just hanging on to those airport locations, maybe they...
Yeah.
I
So
haven't
there's-
seen one of those in a long time.
Yeah.
But
Pizza-
so give McDonald's a little credit.
No,
they're
alright,
doing the
true,
right
yep.
thing there.
Well, and I think part of the they don't know where the food's coming from means that it's probably coming from Russia.
Probably that same oligarch who bought all of those McDonald's franchises in Russia is making out here too.
Well, just because, especially with the same person registering the same IP or the same trademark that he had in Russia, and it looks like that's coming over. Still, when you look up these restaurants online, it's pretty hilarious. There have been a lot of photos and videos taken from them ever since they opened up, and to say they look dangerously similar is even a joke because they're the exact same. They're just missing the arches on the packaging. For some of them, the new logo is still in red and yellow. Some of the fry boxes, they obviously had to swap out quick, and they're just like brown cardboard boxes. So you would think maybe, all right, the restaurants are coming back. Everyone was upset because McDonald's closed down. There's going to be this rush of traffic to get those fries again once they reopen. When they reopened, they said they had about 10 people come in that morning.
Really?
Yeah, just like, so maybe it was so quick, no one knows they ever went away.
That's true.
It is interesting also that all restaurant staff who worked at the time of the closure are going to keep their jobs, the same wage, and all the other working conditions are going to be the same. It just seemed like some of the pricing switched a little bit after the branding, but it kind of looks like, where they literally just took the arches off, put a new brand on there, and they're like, all right, we work at Cheeseburger now. So just an interesting development. Our most popular story this week, $3.5 billion Ford plant rejected over China ties. Ford is looking to build a $3.5 billion battery plant that would create some 2,500 jobs. Michigan and Virginia were the front runners to land the deal, but then Virginia Governor Glenn Youngkin ended any chance of the project coming to Old Dominion. According to the governor's office, the proposal would, quote, serve as a front for the Chinese Communist Party, which would compromise our economic security and Virginians' personal privacy. The proposed plant is a joint venture between Ford and Contemporary Amperex Technology Company Limited, or CATL, we're going to say CATL, a Chinese battery manufacturer. Ford would own 100% of the plants, and CATL would operate the factory and own the technology. The arrangement means the facility would qualify for production tax credits. Anna, at first, I kind of came out really against the decision here, but once you kind of look into how they're working the deal, so Ford owns the plant to receive all the government incentives, but then all the IP is owned by CATL, I kind of understood the pushback a little bit there.
I guess, but CATL is an established EV battery maker.
Yeah.
Why shouldn't they own their own IP?
Fair.
I don't know. To me, I took sort of a skeptical position on this one, and feel free to disagree with me. I know you will. Feel free. But to me, I just kind of wondered maybe if there's something that the governor's office knew here that we don't know. I think that could go in one of several directions. The obvious one, of course, is that there was something concerning about this company or this deal that led him down the path to say, we don't want anything to do with this. But to me, I think the other option we need to consider is maybe that this deal wasn't going to happen and that this is a political spin that makes it look like it was the governor's idea.
Oh, gotcha.
I mean, sometimes that term national security, in my opinion, is so broad and generic that it's a very easy way to use it as this catch-all defense in the same vein as like better safe than sorry.
Okay, so trying to get ahead of it rather than taking it as a loss.
Right. And, I don't know that for a fact, obviously, but I feel like that is potentially something that could be occurring here because, if you look at the myriad other ways that the state of Virginia and really all states with, global enterprise taking place on their soil, in terms of joint ventures and people's suppliers, like it's very, very hard to decouple your state from China.
Right.
I don't know if this is the plan for Virginia going forward. This is a huge can of worms. And it's not something that they have done before. Like if you look at the website for the Virginia Economic Development Partnership, like almost first thing, there's this news release about a Mack truck expansion in Virginia. They were expanding their facility in Roanoke Valley. So Mack is owned by Volvo. Volvo is owned by Geely Group, which is based in China. How do you decouple these companies from, at all interacting with Chinese companies, especially when you look at that this cattle is not, at least on paper, associated with the Chinese government. They are a company that is very well known in the battery industry. They have deals with not just Ford, but they've had deals with Tesla, Hyundai, BMW, a lot of automakers. So to me, I was having a lot of trouble trying to rationalize this. And again, to your point, like about Ford being the sole owner of this plant, I don't think that that's really that unusual. This is an agreement that they've put together. But again, cattle makes these products. They just make them in China currently. We need to onshore some of that production. We've talked about that already. There's legislation around it. So to me, it just seems strange that this came up now. It just made me wonder if maybe Governor Youngkin was trying to turn some lemons into lemonade politically and just try to put some spin on it because maybe it wasn't going to happen to begin with. Because otherwise, if you apply this logic to every other business opportunity that comes to the state, they're going to have a lot of problems moving forward with this strategy.
No, that's a really good point. And Jeff, do you think Youngkin has to reach out to some of these companies he's already cut deals with and just been like, all right, hey, listen, it's just what I said in the news? Because, there is something to be said for any potential company that wants to do business in Virginia or is planning to do business in Virginia and think that it could get spiked as a result of Chinese ties.
Well, maybe. Here's what I would say. First of all, Cattle is not a well-known EV battery maker. They are far and away the number one in market share. Like it's not even close. It's a battle for second. The other thing is if Virginia is taking a cognizant approach of we are not going to get into this business, that's fine. But 6 of the top 10 EV battery makers in the world are from China.
Right.
Okay. So if that's where we're going on the automotive side, that's fine if that's the approach you want to take. The one thing I will say is I think Governor Youngkin has been consistent. Okay, if this is his approach for turning this deal down, that does show consistency because about a month ago, he issued an executive order banning the appearance of any Chinese-based apps, mainly TikTok and WeChat, off of any government device. Okay, so there is somewhat of a precedent there in terms of his feelings towards Chinese companies and their potential connection to the the Communist Party. The other thing is he's also been very consistent in saying, we're not just going to get jobs in Virginia, we're going to get the right jobs. And before we get the right jobs, we're going to spend a lot of money on workforce development. He has been very vocal in terms of putting money towards training workers and trying to reorganize the Department of Workforce Development. So that has been a consistent argument for him as well. The other thing is I don't think Virginia is really hurting. They've got Lego coming in, building $1 billion highly sustainable manufacturing facility. They've got Amazon. We covered this week, spending $35 billion on new server centers in Virginia.
Yep.
They've got all of this other infrastructure in place. They've also said, before we have these folks come in, we're going to make sure these sites are right so we don't run into issues during the process. Now, I'm not saying there wasn't something he knew about in advance here. To Anna's point, I'll put nothing past the politician at any given level. But there was something consistent with them being suspicious of this particular deal and saying no. And I think it kind of sets a healthy precedent, saying we're not just because you're telling us it's a good deal, doesn't mean we're going to take it.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
Could be done more often.
Could be done more often, yes. But do you think it's a little, like it's got to be a little 6 degrees of separation with the China? Because when you talk about the Geely connection with Mac, you know, that's far enough, whereas it's hard to separate cattle from China. You know, like it's just synonymous with China, whereas Mac is like 3 degrees removed.
Okay, but is that like reality then, or is that just the perception of what, you know, like?
Oh, yeah, no, it's just a perception.
It just seems like
it's like, whoa, we got to make 3 moves to get to China, we're fine.
Yeah.
Well, look, Governor Youngkin's also been kicked around as a potential White House candidate in a couple of years. So there is a political element to this too, as Anna alluded to.
No, and I was going to bring that up. I just hope that politics and his presidential aspirations wasn't what killed the deal. It would have really been a boon for this area, which is one of the poorest areas in Virginia. One of the local officials accused Youngkin of gubernatorial malpractice. Oof. And I just think that really needs to be in the lexicon a little bit more often, because that's
I like that one.
We see that one everywhere, always. The area in particular has lost a lot of furniture, textiles, and tobacco industries, and has recently refocused on advanced manufacturing. So you could see how this particular deal would have been kind of a perfect fit. I was also surprised when this week they announced another $90 million in grants that are going to develop these industrial sites. $1.5 million was for this specific site. So maybe the site wasn't ready, or, you know, maybe they're pouring another $1.5 million into a site that kind of already had a home, possibly.
Well, I think the approach, and I'm not arguing for or against here, I really don't know enough, but what I would say is the consistent message has been, let's get all of our ducks in a row first so that it is the right place to bring manufacturing in, not trying to match make later on. Yeah. We're going to set these sites up correctly so that we get the right people in there.
No, it's just, it seems so unbelievable. That's why I'm just
there's
like,
too much common sense.
Yeah, I'm
here.
just like, that's why I don't buy it. I'm like, there's no way that's what's going on.
Yeah, you're supposed to shoot first and ask questions later. That's how this works.
That's right. You seal the deal, you get the shovels out, you do the pictures, and then you figure out whether or not it's going to work.
And then somebody defaults. That's what happens.
I guess that's a big part of it for me, is that you do want to make sure that it is the right fit, but you also want to make sure that the area doesn't remain depressed and
Fair
kind
enough.
of,
That's
when there
fair.
are these opportunities. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, before we transition to In Case You Missed It, do we have another one from our sponsor, producer Eric? Yes. We do have another word from our sponsor, Oil Eater.
Oil Eater's household cleaners, industrial cleaners, and industrial equipment are specifically designed to replace dangerous solvents and are used throughout the world. Our safe water-based formula dissolves grease and grime for almost any surface and leaves a fresh, non-chemical scent. Our ultra-concentrated formulas are perfect for light, medium, or heavy cleaning and can be used on shop floors, in parts washers, to clean equipment, and more. VOC compliant, Oil Eater will do an excellent job in a multitude of applications, safely and cost-effectively, while reducing your chemical usage. Safe for the user, safe for the surfaces being cleaned, and safe for the environment. For more information, visit oileater.com or call 800-528-0334.
And we're back. Again, the reminder to check the link below, get yourself a free sample of Oil Eater, and let them know that the Today in Manufacturing crew sent you. All right, in case you missed it, the stories that maybe weren't as popular on our websites, but still make a big impact on the industry going forward. Anna, what do you have for us this week with In Case You Missed It?
All right, so the story I selected this week is titled Chocolate Companies Pressed to Remove Toxic Metals. Consumer Reports has issued open letters to several major confectionery brands urging them to make changes to certain dark chocolate products. Consumer Reports had noted that there were no federal standards on the level of cadmium or lead that a chocolate bar can contain. So they used for their analysis a California standard. It was something California had established as a maximum allowable dose for lead and cadmium. So Consumer Reports tested 28 brands, and of them, only 5 contain less than California's maximum allowable dose per ounce. And some far exceeded those levels, including some that had both, over 100% of those levels. So following the study, Consumer Reports sent open letters to Hershey, Trader Joe's, Mondelez, Theo, some of these top brands, urging them to commit to addressing the metals problem before Valentine's Day of this year. And they pointed to science that suggests that long-term exposure, even to small amounts of these metals, can cause a lot of health problems, right? So Consumer Reports is saying that the cadmium is reaching these cacao beans in the soil, while the lead is doing so during the drying process, meaning that any solutions that these companies would provide would mean changing both the harvesting and the manufacturing practices. Reuters reported that none of the chocolate companies responded publicly, though the National Confectioners Association, a trade group, did weigh in, calling the California guidelines the most protective available, though not food safety standards. They said that the chocolate remains safe to eat. Hardly a surprising response from a trade group funded by the industry. But unfortunately, because there is no federal standard, it's easy enough, I think, to hide behind this logic and say that it's a guideline, not a food safety standard. Consumer Reports considers itself an advocacy group in a way. And I think they use their experts to test products to improve transparency, and they've even been effective in sort of pushing the removal of some dangerous products from the market. We've seen a lot of studies in the last couple of years with consumer products, hand sanitizers, spray-on sunscreen, shampoo, all that stuff. I've seen this chocolate story be widely reported. Mm-hmm. I've seen it in a lot of places. People I know personally have said that they are throwing these products away that have been outlined in this report.
People in the studio.
People in the studio.
Now.
I was devastated.
Producer Eric was devastated.
He was. He came home to a chocolate-free home. But I have to say I'm pro watchdog in this sense because I think, we're quite lax at a federal level compared to many other developed countries in terms of how we regulate goods producers, how we regulate chemicals, metals, all that stuff. All that said, I hope these companies can take a look and try to find some solutions on their own because the other road is when you see stuff like this widely reported is congressional probes, inquiries, lawsuits. So it's bad for everyone. The public thinks that it's being handled, but it's really not. Mm-hmm. And then these companies get dragged through these huge wastes of time when they could just be fixing the problem, right? So I just hope that it goes, that they can see this and try to make some changes before it goes that other direction.
There were so many troubling things about this story.
Yeah.
Just part of it was the amount of people that came out like pro heavy metal and chocolates. Just like, well, if you're eating so much chocolate to actually get poisoned, that's your problem.
They said 1 ounce per day over the long term, which is, 1 ounce is not very much. Like if you eat a little square of chocolate at night.
Yeah.
Because that's what everybody does.
Yeah,
right?
everyone breaks off the one square and puts it back responsibly for tomorrow.
Well, I know. And I read too that the average, seems crazy to me, but the average American eats 3 chocolate bars per week, averaged out.
Oh.
Does that seem high to you?
Yeah.
It seems high.
Seems high,
now, but previously, maybe not. Like maybe in my 20s.
25-year-old David,
well,
yes.
Like maybe when the metabolism was a little bit more efficient, whereas now the candy bar just has so many more negative implications. But no, that does seem high. Are we talking like 3 Hershey bars a week?
I wonder if it's like the equivalent in like the chocolate drizzle that's on your granola bar and all that, all that stuff.
I'm sure it takes all that into effect. I think at different stages of your life, like when you're in high school, like you just eat garbage, and that could definitely be the case.
You have 3 for breakfast. You sweat it up
during the holidays. This could,
But you could definitely see people eating 1 ounce of chocolate a day.
Oh yeah,
like that's very easy to believe, and that's how much they say that it. You could be eating this over long term and still have these health effects, which is pretty terrifying.
It is. In the letter to Hershey, I'm sure the same letter that went to everybody. Brian Ronholm says. Many choose to eat dark chocolate because of its potential health benefit and relatively low levels of sugar. And then he says, but there's nothing healthy about ingesting heavy metals. Yeah, Brian.
Yep.
Bad. I don't know. This was just a shock to me. And I don't know. Hopefully, like you said, there is a better good faith effort by these companies to get rid of the toxic metals than maybe we're expecting there to be.
Yeah.
Jeff.
People just got to be mad about something, I guess. I mean, yeah, why would you get mad about wanting to remove these things from a product? I mean,
mad, not outraged.
Not outraged, yeah, not outraged. The thing I think that caught my attention the most was the cadmium in the soil, because I mean, that offers a lot of bigger issues potentially.
Exactly.
Depending on where they're sourcing the cocoa beans from, all of that. So that could, not just what's going on here, but in the foreign countries that they're sourcing from. So you'd want to get you have to get more and more people involved in a process to fix it. That makes it more complicated, more expensive, and potentially less likely to be addressed when you're talking about all that. So that would be the one that would be most concerning. What's going on in the production process, that you can hold people's feet to the fire in terms of fixing and making better. So we'll see where this one goes. This will be an interesting one, I think, to keep an eye on, because if people react that that aggressively to something either for or against, it usually doesn't die. It usually keeps going.
Will this change either of your chocolate consumption?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the like we usually have Dove chocolate around, like the dark one, just for,
Yeah.
I'm not buying
For
that.
when we're getting crazy.
Yeah, well, we have a crazy night.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll eat one, sometimes two.
We have two and a glass of red wine.
Yeah.
Weird.
It is Friday night. I'm not going to buy that stuff anymore. No.
Jeff, is it enough for you to make a decision at the grocery store?
No.
Just, I have to tee it up when I already know.
Yeah,
the
you
answer.
knew the answer to both of those.
All right. Mine, in case you missed it this week, was about the automotive startup Lightyear and how they are halting production on their solar car. So Lightyear wants to commercialize solar cars. This week, the company suspended production of its Lightyear Zero, which is a solar EV. And this happened less than 2 months after production began. The EV startup is undergoing a, quote, strategic restructuring after the company was surprised by the interest for a more economical Lightyear 2. The Dutch company created the Lightyear Zero to be the first production solar car in the world, but it cost $270,000. At the same time, the company was working on the Lightyear 2, which is going to cost less than $40,000. The 2 also has a real-life driving range of more than 500 miles per charge. A few weeks ago, the company opened up a wait list for the Lightyear 2, and it has already grown to some 40,000 people. When you combine that with the 21,000 orders that it already has, pre-orders that it has from fleet owners, the demand apparently forced Lightyear to make some hard choices. Now, the company's going to have to retool and make production changes for a car that wasn't supposed to be made until the end of 2025, and some industry insiders see trouble afoot and not necessarily a pivot. According to Electric, the startup's original strategy was to sell 946 Lightyear Zeros at $270,000 a pop to help fund the 2's development and production. The sudden shift casts a shadow of doubt over the company's future. Anna and Jeff, I picked the story because whenever we see an automotive startup, we talk about how difficult it is for it to get off the ground. This one was particularly unique because it addressed a lot of big issues in EVs with the solar car, with a 500 miles per charge. So do you think that Lightyear is just scrambling to try and get any money in? Or, is it Lightyear going to be closed within a year?
Yeah, I hope not.
Yeah.
To be honest, because what I'm confused about is why they would take the big swing first.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it make more sense to tool up to sell the $40,000 vehicle, seeing as how that's what people are more accustomed to paying for a vehicle? Well, especially if it's got a 500-mile range. I mean, there's a lot of key selling points there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're talking about $275,000 and it's a solar-powered car, you're not really talking. I mean, I don't know. I guess I didn't get to this one because we just ran this one today.
Yeah.
But if it's, I'm assuming it's got a ton of sport features and functionalities and all the bells and whistles. But you can buy a lot of car for $275,000.
Yeah.
So I would think they just need to I think it's their business model more than anything else. Start with the 40,000, use that to build up into bigger and better things. I think they just got them mixed around there.
Well, and that's not necessarily out of the ordinary, where typically a startup comes out, makes a splash with a cool car, tries to sell a handful of them, like the Tesla Roadster.
I think that works in a young market.
Yeah.
This is a very mature market here. And you need something that's, because I think people want to get on board with something like this.
No, I think so too. And Anna, if they're just trying to, if they have 60,000 people that want a solar car that's $40,000 or less, I think you just start making that one and then worry about how you can produce the zero on that production line.
Yeah, it just seemed like a bit of a strategic misstep. Clearly they need more cash to fund the production of any of it. 1,000-ish Lightyear Zeros at $270,000 a pop is a great way to do that. However, it's still like a pretty niche buy for somebody. So if you're going that route and you need to raise money, just raise money. You need to get somebody on your team that's really good at like funding.
Yeah.
Because if people are environmentally minded, and I know there are people out there who are investing in green projects and stuff like this that has a lot of promise, just have them invest, man. I know that's easier said than done. So I'm not just saying like, just get a couple $1 million, idiot.
Just get a few checks.
I get that is difficult also, but like this seems like a weird way around. It just seems like a lot of extra work.
Yeah. Well, and the other part for me is that they suspended production. They started production 2 months ago. What has happened in the last 2 months where they're just like, we have made a terrible mistake?
Yeah, I know. And interesting too is like with all their pre-orders that they have, that should be a huge boost to if they want to make some money there to get some investors in. I mean, look at what was it Lordstown that had all the pretend pre-orders and they got like publicly listed on the stock market. Like they got billions of dollars they had to plant. Like you can pre-orders will get you a long way.
I mean, one of the things, maybe just the SEC has really cracked down on a lot of these startups. I mean, they've hit them hard when they come out with falsifying numbers and not being straightforward about where they stood financially. Maybe this kind of spooked them a little bit. They just wanted to get it out there early, be as transparent as possible.
Possible. I hope Lightyear succeeds. I hope we see a Lightyear 2 out on the road, because when some of these were tested, they had rave reviews. So
they look awesome.
You'd think, I mean, I don't know all the science behind it, but you would think you don't have to worry about the charging issue, right? I mean, it's a sunny day. You should be good to go.
Yes, but you're waiting on that sunny day. I know that we have you have solar panels, and you know that sometimes there's kind of a big lull in Wisconsin as to when from one sunny day to the next.
Not getting a lot of solar power right now. A lot of snow on those solar panels as well. But I think with these, can't you? Isn't there some sort of energy storage component?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not like you
solely
can't drive it at night or something.
Jeff, what's your, in case you missed it this week?
So I was actually surprised that we weren't talking about this one in the regular list of stories, but the CNH strike is over. They did come to an agreement. More than 1,000 CNH industrial workers who have been on strike since last May approved a new contract with the company, the maker of tractors, bulldozers, backhoes, and other heavy equipment. The UAW said union members in Racine, Wisconsin, and Burlington, Iowa approved the deal 2 weeks after they ejected an earlier agreement. We talked about this story a couple times. While this strike was ongoing, we were surprised when they got an offer last time that they rejected it, just due to all the different market factors that were in place. And it looks like there was not any improvements made to this offer when they accepted it. I say that because no details are being released. Okay. Usually if the union wins a little bit, we hear about it. In this case, everybody's being pretty hush-hush and just going back to work. Just to remind you, basically, they were looking, the last offer offered workers raises of 28 to 38% over 4 years. So this was a good, on the surface, okay? It seemed like a pretty good deal. There's a lot of concerns over rising insurance costs, scheduling, all of those things, which are fair concerns for the workers to have. What I think the CNH workers coming back to work really represents is a shift. Again, we're looking at all of these market corrections that were taking place. During the pandemic, the power was with these unions. They really did have the clout over the companies to say, we were doing all this work during the pandemic. You've got supply chain shortages right now. You need us, and it's time to make up for lost time. basically, for the things we didn't get in the past. And a lot of companies caved in, especially on the food side. We saw John Deere, we saw Kellogg's, we saw a number of these folks. Well, in this instance, CNH held out. We talked about they were having really strong profit numbers. They were getting things out the door. They didn't have supply chain issues, so they basically stood their ground. And in this case, the workers had to come back.
And they had replacement workers.
They had replacement workers in place. So I think this is a trend. I think some of that clout that we had talked about before is going away. Again, bringing up the whole subject of unions, I think it's a really interesting time for unions right now, because we're seeing we just saw the Teamsters getting very upset over really not having any power over Energizer in a lot of those cuts. We see this a lot with the UAW trying to get into some of these plants in the Southeast and not succeeding. We see a lot of union votes at Amazon facilities, and they get really fired up about it, and then the vote says no. So I think this is an interesting story just in the context of where we are in terms of who's got a little bit more clout in coming after a lot of these new labor arrangements.
But wasn't the biggest part of the story last week or the week before when you talked about it that the union couldn't understand why workers rejected the offer?
No, I didn't get that vibe from it. I think it was basically just very cut and dry. Or I should say in the Wisconsin location.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Iowa approved it, yeah.
Iowa was for it. Wisconsin overwhelmingly must have said no, because the difference, I think it was it like a 45-55?
It was very close,
type split. So I think that the surprise was there was not a lot of dialogue from the workers in terms of the back and forth. It was just saying no. And something has changed in the last couple of weeks. These folks wanted to get back to work. Hopefully everything goes smoothly forward.
Well, you know why this wasn't in the top 5. This is a positive and peaceful resolution to a nearly year-long strike. And everyone's just like, oh, it's over? There's no drama. I don't want to read it.
Well, we talked a lot about last year there being a lot of labor issues, a lot of challenges, a lot of strikes, things like that. You'll see what happens in 2023.
Anna, what'd you think about the resolution at CNH?
When I read the story, I had the same assumption as Jeff, which was that this was probably a revote on the contract that was put before them 2 weeks ago. Because as you said, I think if there were details in terms of CNH coming back to that and adding in some more things, we would know about that, I think, at this point. And we talked about probably, the fatigue that these striking workers were experiencing at this point, for how long they'd been on strike, how long they were receiving strike pay, how close this was getting to the edge of the cliff. And I can see why at this point they just said, look, we got to move forward. And I'm glad that they did. I think that was the right thing to do. And as Jeff said, I do also think that the sentiment is shifting a little bit. The leverage is shifting a little bit. And people are starting to get nervous. I mean, we've seen a lot of layoff stories in the last couple of weeks. Like
2 more today.
2 more. I know, more than we've seen in the last year, in the last couple of weeks. And so people are probably starting to get a little nervous. Is my job secure? I should hold on to what I have. And that's probably what they were doing here.
All right. Well, before we get out of here this week, let's move on to our final thoughts. Anna, what do you have for us this week as a final thought?
So on that note of layoffs, obviously we've seen a lot of...
Oh, God.
We've seen...
No.
Oh, no.
You know where he's going to go.
Oh, God.
You have to give him something.
Why are the lights turning off?
David will talk to you afterwards.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
There's a cardboard box on your desk. I don't want you to panic, but put your stuff in it. What I was getting at was, as we were talking about, there's been a lot of, kind of negative news in the last cycle, which has been concerning, of course. Last week, I kind of threw out my optimistic take on 2023 for the manufacturing sector. I just want to say I am still there. I think we're seeing a lot of things that boon well for this particular industry. Supply chain stuff is starting to level off a little bit. Workforce stuff is starting to improve a little bit. Inflation's starting to come down a little bit. Material prices are starting to come down a little bit. So I'm hopeful still, and I'm going to take a tone of optimism on this still. As the weeks continue, feel free to disagree, but I'm really hopeful that 2023 is going to kind of stay the course for manufacturers at least.
Well, we've seen a lot of strength out of the manufacturing industry. Really, where we've seen cuts have been primarily tech jobs.
There's been a lot of tech cuts, and that's like by far and away the most. I think it was a little scary to see this 3M stuff.
3M.
Dow cut some jobs today, which
Dow
was
was a big
also
one.
a little bit concerning. But again, I think overall, most manufacturers should be at least well positioned to weather this year. I'm hoping. So.
All right. Well, my final thought this week was it was a story that we ran that wasn't enough to be a final thought, just because there was a couple of interesting parts of it. But it was about this company, Dream Sports, which is a new tech startup in India. They're fining employees that contact another employee on his or her vacation personally $1,200. It's just, yeah. The angle is that they kind of modeled this after manufacturing shutdowns where, employees had a week to go home and just not think of anything, and nothing was going to affect them because the factory was closed and off. The other part of this that I found interesting was that it also helps management determine whether or not they depend too much on a single person, which I thought was a little like, hey, go on vacation. We'll see if we need you too much.
Well, but it could be also like, an impetus for cross-training.
Agreed. Completely agreed. But I thought it was kind of cool that they fined workers if they interrupted your vacation, because everyone's gone on a vacation and just been like, hey, unless it's burning down, don't call me.
Why?
And they still get called.
Yeah, but why the employee? I mean, that's kind of like you make the phone call. No, you make the phone call. Like who decides who has to do that?
Like, we really need to talk to Jeff about this particular problem. And it's just, well, no. We'll split it.
Yeah.
We'll split it. Jeff, I will make sure on your next vacation to not call you.
You can call. I don't have to answer. I mean,
Fair enough.
That's kind of my feeling. I mean,
oh, I like that. They're fined $1,200 only if they pick up.
I tried to call.
Let's show him the phone records. No. He didn't even. Yeah.
And who gets the money? Does Jeff get the money, or does it?
Hey, there you go.
Oh man, the worker gets the money. I don't know that. I don't know where it goes. Just like the management puts this into place, finds their workers, and they get it. Just like
that would go over well. That's a lot, though. That's
it
a
is.
big fine.
That is a significant fine. So while maybe this in practice isn't a fit for everybody, but just a reminder that when people are taking time off to recharge the batteries, maybe give them a little bit of space. Don't interrupt that nap because you don't know what time of the day it's coming.
We're going back to that.
What?
When I sent a text during the holiday break and you were taking a nap.
I mean, that could have been any time.
I mean, you're coming. You just haven't forgotten.
I mean,
holding on to that. I apologize, David.
It was a
I'm
quality
sorry.
nap. It was a quality nap.
You should find Jeff.
I mean, no, I would have fined him if the kids woke up, but he just woke up me. It was all right. Jeff, what is your final thought this week?
So first, we ran well, let me start this way. I know you're not a beer drinker, David.
Yeah.
You don't care for it, but everybody else in here does. Why do we have to keep putting weird stuff in beer? We ran a story this week about a chili cheese beer.
Yeah.
Oh,
What are we doing?
Hormel beer.
What do we do? Did a taste test one time about like a Thanksgiving dinner in a beer. I mean, beer is great. It's really good. Why are we messing with this? I mean, I don't even like putting fruit in beer.
Yeah.
People like an orange, that's fine, I guess. But man, let it be. Mm-hmm. There are better ways to use your innovative talents than to mess with beer. Stop it.
Marketing teams everywhere they look at anything to try and see what they can flavor a beer as. They're just like, oh, Mountain Dew, huh? Yeah, Mountain Dew beer. Get it going. Work on the partnership.
That would be horrible.
No, I saw that too. And sometimes these stories come across our desk and it's like, why? Why are we doing
Why
that?
a chili cheese beer?
I mean,
They're like $6 a can too.
yeah, at least the graphic designers
doing
behind that got to have a good time.
Yeah.
I want to chime in. Seth says that you're spot on. Even fruit ruins a good beer. And he also mentioned his managers didn't call, but they leave him incredibly long text messages.
Oh, rude.
Oh, a workaround.
Yeah, I like it when the text comes in and you can tell it's like part 2 or 3 of like a brick of like 5 different texts. That's
Brutal.
Anyway, I'll make sure to get you some Hormel. It's Hormel chili beer, right?
I did
Yeah,
not.
I guess if anybody else has heard of some horrible beer ideas, let us know. It'd be interesting to learn about, but I don't want to drink them.
Some gross
Jeff,
ones
this
out
is $24 for a 4-pack.
there. Ugh.
Yeah. Who's going to pay $6 for a chili cheese beer?
How is
Good night.
how is the beer $6 in a can of the chili $1?
Well, because it's here, David. It's a corn chip flavored base.
Oh,
And
can't
then-
you take a PBR and a can of the chili and just
No.
throw them in a bowl?
No.
I mean, you make
At least they're brewing a beer. At least they're trying. It's still a horrible
you
idea.
put
but
beer in chili anyways.
A mix of savory spices and hints of cheddar cheese powder.
that's my point.
Oh,
You put beer in stuff. You don't put stuff in the beer.
nasty.
Fair enough.
Man. Speaking of another contentious topic, our polling question from last week. This week is pretty good. We had some good stuff on this one. For those of you who don't recall, it was, do you think paying back stolen time should be a standard practice? And do you have any examples of employees that you felt were stealing time?
Did anyone say yes?
The majority of people said yes.
Come on. Be part of the solution.
Yes.
What has Seth got for us now? I would rather pay the $1,200 for calling a coworker than $24 for that beer. Wow. Seth's taking some big swings with us live today. I like it.
He's not wrong. He's not. But yeah, I was surprised too. The 58% of respondents to the poll said that we should be paying back, or employees should pay back stolen time. That should become a standard practice.
Oh my goodness.
So we had some interesting responses here, just to read a couple. Charlie said, we have people, smokers, that abuse the corporate policy regarding their habit. They're supposed to smoke on their breaks and lunches, but they take 5 minutes every hour to sneak a smoke in addition to their breaks. He said he even heard of one company giving non-smoking employees extra vacation time to account for the time that they were missing out on by not smoking.
So this isn't, we don't have to take down the smokers. We just need our 3 smoking days.
I guess.
I'm
I'm
fine.
gonna take a
approach.
smoking day tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm in
Now
for
that
it.
I know, now that I know I can.
Jeff, can you help cover for us? We're going to take smoking days tomorrow.
Keith also said that, yeah, we should definitely have stolen time being paid back as a standard practice. He said anywhere he's worked, employees spend time on the company computers buying clothes from famous online stores. He said all employers should use time-based software to track employees and stop this misuse of time theft.
No, that is
No.
not necessary.
Now, we did have another real good. This individual prefers to maintain anonymous. He said no. He said everyone steals a little time here and there. I think it's made up through a number of things. You stay late, you come in early, you're on calls later on and stuff like that. And he said he would not work for a company that tracks login time on the work computer, because sometimes he even works at home because his equipment is better there.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you, Anonymous.
yes.
Thank you.
Last one I want to read here was from Marina. She's always got some good stuff. She said, for the most part, she disagrees with clawing back time as a company policy. Firing the employee should be enough. She said, that said, she's experienced a coworker who basically, I'm going to paraphrase here, was in charge with figuring out why a particular piece of equipment was malfunctioning. So as opposed to just looking across the road and realizing there was a railroad track running right there, he spent a couple of weeks just tapping on his desk. Basically, they knew what was going on. This individual was wasting this company time performing a test on what could possibly be manipulating the results from this piece of equipment.
Gotcha.
So obviously stealing time. She said she had another coworker that took her to a packaging supplier their first month on the job, and as they were passing by a mall, she told her that sometimes she goes shopping at the mall between visits. So obviously stealing some time there. In both of the above cases, she says it's not the amount of time stolen from the company that's the problem, but how it impacts morale and company culture, things that she places a higher value on.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
well said,
I get
Marina.
that.
Okay, maybe there's a happy medium here, and Seth wants to speed it up because he needs a cigarette break. But, sorry, producer Alex wants us to speed it up because he needs a cigarette break. But what if there's a happy medium here? And this might be stupid, so I apologize because it's coming right off the cuff. But so first offense is a warning, right? And then if you know the second offense where you're caught stealing time, you have to pay it back. And then the third offense is you're just terminated. Because honestly, for a lot of these people, if you think that someone needs to pay back money for stealing time, they should just be fired.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's kind of Marina's point.
Yeah, and honestly, what is improved? I mean, you get someone to pay back part of their salary, they're coming back at 100% the next day.
Well, Marina brought up too, the cost that you have to go through just to get them to pay that money back, you're probably losing money on the deal then. So,
My goodness.
yeah. But a lot of interesting feedback. Thanks to everybody who participated in that one. Got another one that should maybe stir up some interest here. We were talking a lot about unions in this episode. Polling question for this episode is, would you join or advise an incoming non-management worker to join a union right now? Why or why not? And have you had any personal experiences that sort of formed your opinion? I think most of the people who are listening are more on the managerial side, so it's a little different. But at some point, they were not. So when you're first coming into a manufacturing enterprise, again, would you join a union or would you advise others who are in that situation to join a union, kind of given all the different elements of the business climate right now?
And I hear the roaring of the flames of this one already.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. It's going to be fun. I think we might have more anonymous responses.
Fair.
Winter is coming.
Well, before we get out of here this week, please make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. You can also help us out a lot by leaving the podcast a positive review on whatever platform you use. If you want to email the podcast, you can reach any of us at Jeff, David, or Anna at IEN.com with email the podcast in the subject line. Subscribe to our daily and weekly newsletters, and subscribe to us on YouTube at IEN Magazine so you can join us and Seth and everybody else as we do this thing live. For Jeff Ranke and Anna Wells, I'm David Manti. This is the Today in Manufacturing podcast, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Today in Manufacturing podcast.